This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Who is Elisha in the Bible? What is the relationship between Elijah and Elisha? Find the answers here. This term paper compares Elijah and Elisha and describes their friendship. The story of Elijah and Elisha is quite interesting. The two were God-anointed prophets who served and helped people to be saved. The two men are considered to be among the most respected prophets in the Old Testament who served God with faith and trust. Even though the two men had some similarities, they had some contrasts that were evidenced during their time. Similarities between Elijah and Elisha. Both Elijah and Elisha were prophets appointed by God to serve the people. They both came from Samaria, hence they went through the same life experiences. They preached the gospel and saved people's hearts. The two have similarities in their names. Even though they differ, the names have close similarities in their pronunciation. Another notable similarity between these two men was in their miracles. The miracle that Elijah performed last was similar to the one Elisha performed first when he began serving as a prophet. The miracle was separating the water of Jordan by using a cloak. They also restored the lives of people while serving in their ministries. For instance, Zarephath was healed by Elijah, while a woman coming from Shunem was restored back to life by Elisha. Therefore, both prophets performed miracles even though they were different in nature. Furthermore, the two prophets had similarities in the way they spoke and conveyed their message. They talked in the same way to their kings. Even though they had these similarities, the contrasts between them were noticeable. Differences between Elijah and Elisha. Even though the two prophets conducted miracles, they did not resemble each other. Most of Elijah's miracles were inclined to the destruction of life and death. On the other hand, most of Elisha's miracles were based on life restoration as well as healing. Therefore, it can be said that Elisha was a prophet of grace, while Elijah was a prophet of judgment. Elijah gave testimonies that were against sin and evil of men, while Elisha's testimonies were inclined toward the salvation of people and preaching on God's mercy. Elijah's mission concerned or was directed to the public. He often engaged with sinners and those that led them into sin. On the other hand, Elisha was majorly involved with people and prophets of God. Through the compassion of God, he blessed people by preaching and carrying out miracles. Further differences can be observed in the way they lived. The life of Elijah was constricted since he did not socialize with people, while that Elisha was active. Elisha engaged with many people and even visited his fellow prophets at their learning places. The way their ministries ended was different. Elijah died through the fire on the chariot, while Elisha died in his old age. Elijah's first miracle was prophesying that neither rain nor dew could be seen for a period of 3.5 years. On the other hand, Elisha's first miracle was praying for an unclean spring to have clean water. On a socio-economic level, Elijah came from a poor background compared to Elisha, who came from Abel-Meholah. According to 2 Kings 1 verse 8, in terms of physical appearance, Elijah had more hair on his body compared to Elijah, who had no hair, as stated in 2 Kings 2 verse 23. In terms of their ministries, Elisha's ministry lasted twice that of Elijah's. Elisha did many miracles, almost twice what Elijah performed. Elijah versus Elisha, the impact of the characters. As leaders and servants of the people, these two men feared God and served the people diligently, leading them to their salvation. There is nowhere in the Bible that states the two prophets were implicated in any offenses. They were committed to the life of God, and this is manifested in the many miracles that they performed during their lifetime. For instance, Elisha loved people and often associated with them positively. The two men's characters show or provide various lessons that people in the current world can learn and help increase their strength and faith in God. The Bible is a holy book that passes, conveys, or teaches spiritual truth to enable people to change their lives and come near to God. It is no doubt that the story of these two men, as revealed through the Bible, positively impacted the lives of the people. They were dedicated in their work to God. They helped people to know God and preached about the good Lord. Their trust and faith in God are some of the values that the two men portrayed in the Bible during their time. Therefore, they teach religious believers to have trust and faith in God. This is also manifested through the many miracles that God enabled them to perform during their ministries. The lessons learned. From these stories, various lessons or teachings are helpful in our day-to-day lives. One of the lessons that I have learned from the story, and which I believe can help me in my life, is trust and believing in the God Almighty. Elijah and Elisha believed in God and were obedient to God, who anointed them to be His servants. God, because of the faithfulness of the two, enabled them to perform many miracles. Therefore, I am touched, and I now believe that with faith in God, nothing is impossible in our lives. The major reason for me choosing this lesson is that, on most occasions, I have never believed and had faith in God that He can change my life and make me achieve my goals. However, after reading this story, I was elevated and encouraged. I was touched by how believing and having faith in God can change one's life. God is able to elevate and anoint one into His kingdom when a person trusts and has faith in Him. Personal opinion. This is a lesson that can strengthen my life. I can use this lesson by changing the ways of my life and giving all my life to God, who is the Alpha and the Omega. By surrendering my life to God and doing according to His will, I believe His mercies will shine upon my life and strengthen my faith and trust in Him. Second, my Christian life can be strengthened by attending church and being prayerful my entire life. Faith in God entails always being close to God. Being close to God is through prayers. Furthermore, I will transform or change my actions and deeds. I will endeavor to abide by the laws of God and always do well for my neighbors. If you want to find more works like this term paper on Elijah and Elisha, compare and contrast, head over to ivpanda.com. It has a collection of free samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects. No registration required to access it.